Yeah. Okay, good. Well, like Sadia already introduced, my name is Merel. I'm a PhD candidate at NIVEL, which is the Netherlands Institute for Health Services Research. Nonna is my colleague. She's the coordinator of the program, Patient-Centered Care. And Laura is here with us as well. She's a professor of English language at the University of Milan. But we collaborate with her in her role as co-researcher in the E1Call project that I will be speaking about. So in my presentation, I will very briefly introduce the NIVEL, so the institute that Nan and I are working at, and talk a little bit about the place that this paper has in my overall PhD project. And then I will take you through the entire paper. And Laura will also share some of her experiences of working as a co-researcher in a project. So we're saving the best for last, I would say, in the presentation. And then after that, we will have a discussion together. So I'll just start the presentation and look forward to discussing with you afterwards. It's working. Let me see. Yeah, so just some short words about NIVEL. So this is the institute that Nan and I are working at. It stands for the Netherlands Institute for Health Services Research, and our mission is to deliver research for better care. So we carry out high quality health services research with the impact upon society. That's the mission of our institute. Our institute started in 1965 as the Scientific Institute of the Dutch College of General Practitioners, but over time we gradually expanded to all primary care and then also secondary care. And in recent years, also not only focused on the Netherlands, but also on a broader level. So, for example, the project that I will be talking about takes place on a European level, and that's something that we do more and more often as well. And lastly, we're an independent and non-profit foundation, so the results of our research are publicly published always at all times because, well, we're transparent and that's important to us. So just very briefly, and if you want to learn more, there's also an English version of our website, so please feel free to look around if you're interested. So just a very short overview of my PhD project. So my PhD project is about patient and public involvement in the large European project that's called E1Call. I will introduce all of that more in a few minutes. But one part of my PhD research is to elaborate on the PhD methodology that we're applying in the project. And that's actually what the paper is about that I will be discussing today. The second part is to report on how we actually apply the PPI principles in practice. So we're currently busy with revisions on a paper that about the involvement of co-researcher in the questionnaire development process. So we're hoping that it will be published as well in not so long. And then we're working on another paper on co-researcher involvement in the identification of health system level factors of quality of life. And then the last part of the PhD research will be to evaluate the co-researcher involvement in the entire project. So there will be papers on the lessons that we learned and on the actual meaningful impact that co-researcher involvement had in the project. So this just gives you a broad overview, but I will be talking to you today about the first paper, so about the PPI methodology. The paper is called Collaborating with Cancer Patients and Informal Caregivers in a European Study on Quality of Life, Protocol to Embed Patient and Public Involvement within the E1Call project. I've put the full reference below here on the slide, so you can look it up after the presentation if you're interested. So to make sure, again, that you know it's a protocol paper, so it's really about the methodology of PPI in this European project. So just to make clear that we all are on the same page, what we're talking about, we're talking about patient and public involvement, and in the Netherlands and in most of Europe, I think we use the definition that was first defined in the UK. So it's research being carried out with or by members of the public rather than to, about, or for them. So it's really about an active involvement of patients and public members in research. So some things about the added value of PPI, or how we perceive the added value of PPI. We believe that patients and public members have a moral right to be included in research that concerns them. It has also been shown that it actually improves the quality and relevance of research that's being conducted. And lastly, it's an enriching experience for both researchers and public members alike, because they can learn very much from each other about all their experiences and from their professional backgrounds. So I will introduce the e-on-call project to you now. e-on-call stands for Quality of Life in Oncology, measuring what matters for cancer patients and survivors in Europe. So in this project, a new set of quality of life questionnaires is developed for 3 different patient groups. So it's for patients in active treatment, survivors, and patients that are in the palliative phase of their disease. And the e-on-call kit will be a set of these questionnaires, and it will be digitally administered and available in all European languages. And the most important aspect is that the whole project is based on patient and public involvement principles. So the e-on-call kit is really developed from the patient's perspective because of this active involvement of people that have experience with cancer in the whole research project. So yeah, that's just the e-on-call project in a nutshell. So it's about quality of life questionnaires for people with cancer on a European level. That's the most important thing that you need to remember. Briefly, the aim of this paper was to describe the way in which PPI principles will be taken up by and evaluated in the e-on-call project. So yeah, a protocol paper, like I already said. Then I will just take you through the paper, so take you through the actual methods that we applied in this project. And we actually started the project by developing a project-specific handbook on patient and public involvement. So we wanted to provide guidance on the researchers on how to collaborate with co-researchers. And by co-researchers, by the way, I mean the people that have lived experience of cancer as a patient or as an informal caregiver, and that collaborate with researchers throughout the entire research project. So we made this handbook for them to provide some guidance, and we also decided that we would update the handbook annually because we want to acknowledge that PPI is an ever-changing and sometimes complex process, so you need to be flexible and adapt your methods. So actually last year we made a really nice leaflet. It's really small, but it's also on the e-on-call website, in which we provide some updates on the things that we learned already in the first year of working together with the co-researchers. And this year we will probably do another update as well. Then we started recruiting our co-researchers, and we did that by making a call for action, and we distributed it on social media channels such as LinkedIn, X, and Facebook. And it was also distributed in a newsletter from the Organization of European Cancer Institutes. So those are a lot of different cancer institutes in Europe that are connected through the newsletter, and so it was spread through a big audience. We established some recruitment criteria. So the co-researchers needed to be 18 years or older, living in a European country, having experience of cancer as either a patient or as an informal caregiver, being able to speak English well enough because it's an international project and there are very many different languages in Europe. So we had to choose, well, a common language, and that was English. Having the ability to participate in digital meetings, also because of the large scale of the project, and having the ability to travel to in-person meetings because we wanted to acknowledge that meeting in person actually adds value, and that it would be an important thing to do. So after the recruitment, we recruited 5 co-researchers, and they are shown here on the slide. So they are from 5 different countries in Europe. In the top left, we have Inke from the Netherlands. Then below we have Katrina from Ireland. And on the left below, we have Carina from Portugal. And then on the top right is Tapani from Finland. And then last but not least, we have Laura from Italy, and she is here today as well. So we have a very nice group of 5 co-researchers from 5 different countries in Europe, and we're very happy with that, of course. Then after we recruited the co-researchers, we started some training sessions, and we did 3 training sessions of 1.5 hours each. And they were mostly, well, the first one was actually more focused on getting to know each other and really introducing the content and the aims of the research project, and also discussing some ground rules together and exchanging personal details. Then the second training session, we really went into the research activities in more detail. So we've introduced all the work packages, all the tasks and activities for the project. And we aligned on all these tasks with the co-researchers. So what would their interest be to participate in which of the work packages, in which of the tasks and activities? And we discussed these preferences with them. And we also asked them if they would have any additional training needs before starting to participate in the actual work packages. So the third training session was reserved for these training wishes of the co-researchers. And we also prepared them for the next steps in the project. So practicalities of their involvement, and also the start of the board meetings. So those were the 3 training sessions. Then after the training sessions, the co-researchers were actually connected with the work packages of their preference. So they indicated their preferences, and each co-researcher was connected with 3 work packages, and each work package has 2 co-researchers. So there's a nice mix of co-researchers going on in the different work packages. And we organized introduction meetings for all the different work packages. So the researchers and the co-researchers were formally introduced to each other, and everyone was really encouraged to discuss the different roles and tasks and activities together. And one of the tools that we suggested to be used, and is actually used quite commonly now, is the involvement matrix. And it was developed by Dutch researchers. I've put the reference here on the slide. And I will show it to you now. So this is the involvement matrix. You see here on the left side, you see the different stages of research or project. So preparation, execution, and implementation. And on the top, there are the different roles in the project. So co-researchers can, for example, be a listener, then information is mostly provided to them. They can also be a partner, and then they work as an equal partner. And then this, you can use this matrix to discuss and decide together which roles co-researchers are going to play in the different activities. So it's actually used a lot in the project. Then after those introduction meetings, the actual collaboration started, and the co-researcher mostly collaborate with the researchers by participation in online meetings, and in some work packages there are meetings every week or every 2 weeks, and sometimes only every 2 months or every few months, but it depends on the activities that are scheduled. We have in-person meetings twice a year, which is really nice, and really gives us the opportunity to connect better with the co-researchers. And the co-researchers also are in very frequent email contact with all the different researchers. And then we from Nivel were actually responsible for the co-researcher involvement in the project. And so we have every 2 weeks meetings with the co-researchers to check in with them how everything is going. Are they still happy? Are they still busy? Are they still satisfied? And yeah, those are basically meetings to really support them in their involvement in the project. So we also paid attention in the paper to evaluation, and these bi-monthly meetings I just spoke about, we use them to actually continuously evaluate with the co-researchers, like I just said, if everything is still going well, if we need to change anything in our approach. So it's a more like informal kind of evaluation. We have also developed an evaluation form. So we used the existing PPI impact log and we adapted it to be used in our project. And we send it out 3 times a year and it's filled in by both researchers and co-researchers. So we really collect a lot of input and evidence about specific contributions of co-researchers have been to the project and yeah, to the different work packages and activities. And after we send out the impact logs, we invite several work package researchers to talk with them in more detail about the things that they filled in the evaluation form. So we have conversations with co-researchers, with researchers, we have the impact log, and in that way we hope to collect as much evidence as we can about how everything is going and what the results are really of the collaboration. Well, then, of course, in a project, results need to be disseminated. So there are, of course, project deliverables. So there are reports and things that are being written, but we're now also in the phase of the project where there are actually scientific papers being published and things being presented at conferences. And we also aim that these activities are, of course, done together with co-researchers as well. So there are already some papers being published where co-researchers are co-authors. And there was last year already a conference where Nonna presented together with Laura and also with another co-researcher there. So there's already also some co-presenting going on as well, which we find very important and the co-researchers also appreciate a lot. Then lastly in the paper, we also describe some ethical considerations, or maybe we should call it good practices or something like that. One of the points was that we find it important to invest a lot of time and energy into establishing a good relationship with the co-researchers. We need to create the right conditions for collaboration. We should start the collaboration by discussing potential roles and tasks, and we should set aside enough time for reflection and evaluation. And these are just 4, but there are, of course, a lot of other things that we need to take into account as well to make the collaboration go as smoothly as possible. Then I thought it would be nice to tell you a little bit about where we are now. So from protocol, so the paper was a protocol paper to practice because we're already halfway through the project. It's a 4-year project and we're now at the beginning of year 3. So 2 years already have gone by. And we have already learned so much about the collaboration with the co-researchers. So for example, PPI takes a lot of time if you want to do it in a good way where everybody is happy in the collaboration. At the beginning of the project, the time schedule was quite tight and that really didn't benefit the collaboration. So that's something that we learned. We also learned that researchers need training as well. So not only the co-researchers should be trained, but researchers should be trained to work together with patients as well. That's something that we did eventually, but well, if we would do it another time, then we would do that at the beginning as well. And the support that's being provided to the co-researchers by a dedicated team of researchers is very much appreciated by the co-researchers and actually has been described as essential. And yeah, we like it a lot, of course, to stay very close to the co-researchers, and it just works very well for the relationship. So then I want to hand over to Laura, because she will tell us a little bit about her real life experience of being a co-researcher in this project. So Laura, I would say take it away.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Meryl. Thank you, Sadia, for inviting me as well to be able to give you a little bit of my perspective on this project, which I have to endorse is an amazing project, really is wonderful. So I thought about how I could very synthetically try and explain how I, as an example of a co-researcher, have contributed or can contribute to this project or to any project of this kind. And I use the example of the three M's, which are motivation, and then mediation and moderation, but I'll go through them one by one. So motivation, meaning who are the researchers? Mediation, how do they collaborate? So the collaboration aspect, and moderation, the attitude. What attitude should we have? So motivation is obviously the first, I think, important aspect of that a co-researcher needs to have, because we need to be motivated to be able to participate. So a co-researcher has to be clearly interested in research. It's a co-researcher, so interested in research as well. And of course, willing to share or think about and share one's own experiences for public interest. This, to me, occurred because of obviously of my own personal experience of having had breast cancer in 2015, and having experienced the trauma, but then the therapy, and luckily the having survived. I am a patient. I consider myself a breast cancer survivor. 10 years on from the initial disease. So strong motivation to, because I'd experienced cancer, and which led me also to become involved in patient advocacy. So having had the experience, I wanted to help others to help others that have cancer, and to help others see my perspective, and because as a patient myself, the people, besides the doctors, obviously, and the caregivers, the people that most helped me were the people that had already had cancer. I had a model to follow. They inspired me because I knew that there could be a way out, and I wanted to return this in some way to other patients, but not only to patients, but also to clinicians, and to the healthcare, the area of healthcare, because I think that is very important, and that our voice is important, which leads me obviously to the next point, which is mediation. So the fact of wanting to collaborate with researchers, people that care for others, people that treat others, but that can use our help, can use our experience to better, or to have the insight that is necessary, I think, to treat patients better, to treat, in this case, oncological patients, but obviously it can be all sorts. So I decided to enroll or not enroll, but to apply, and luckily I was taken on. I'm very grateful to NIVL for this, and so when I talk about mediation, I mean collaboration. How can we collaborate? So how can we work together? We work together to give our insights. So, but at the same time, as co-researchers, we also learn from the researchers. So it really is. So that's why I chose this word of mediation, because in a way we work together. It's a two-party relationship. We give and we take, and they take, and we take and they give, the researchers. So it really we learn from each other and we can support each other. So we reach the goals as a concerted in a concerted effort between all the parties. But I have to say that this wouldn't happen if it weren't for NIVL and the NIVL group and the team that act as mediators. So mediation also meaning having a group of experts, of researchers that can help the two parties, the researchers and the co-researchers, work together, because this isn't easy. It wasn't easy at the beginning. We come from different experiences. We have different professional skills, and the mediation that the NIVL team provided was absolutely fundamental for us to collaborate, to work together and overcome some of the initial difficulties, to overcome uncertainties, worries, but also for the researchers themselves to understand that we could actually be interesting and effective partners in the exchange of information. How do we exchange this information? What information can we give? Well, clearly it's important to, I think, to understand and to participate with our own skills and our own capacities. So not all of us, where there's 5 of us, not all of us can do the same things. Some of us are more skilled in some things and some are skilled in others. So it's important, I think, and as the NIVL team understood this, to entertain and to understand what each one of us can give, how each one can contribute according to one's own skills and capacities. My own personal contribution is, I can say, certainly more in the line of academic skills, so writing and speaking. I teach English at the University of Milan. I'm a full professor. I obviously I go to conferences, I write papers, so I have an idea of what what it means to work in academia, how one can express oneself, both in writing and in speaking clearly. So this is more my professional skills that were, and I think can be useful, have contributed to helping in the whole project, looking over papers, for example. But my other colleagues, the other co-researchers have contributed in other ways, because some are caregivers, so they have more insight and knowledge of how to work in an oncological context. My personal contribution in the field of oncology is clearly personal, and the fact of having had cancer, so I know what it means to be a patient. And just to let you know, I have a BRC BRCA2 gene mutation. So basically, I managed to experience all the different types of therapies that are involved in treating cancer. So I have quite a wide knowledge of what it means to be a breast cancer patient, which I thought would be helpful to help other patients, but also to help in the institutions more as well. So that led me to become part of Europa Donna Italia, so one of the most important patient organizations in Italy, and going to conferences there, and being able to let's say represent the patient and give voice to patients. It's given me that knowledge and that awareness of what patients need, but also at the same time what researchers and what clinicians expect. It's helped me out a lot. So I'm in that sense, I've got that kind of knowledge that can be, and I think has been useful to this project. And lastly, coming on to to how we should, what attitude we should have as co-researchers. I truly believe that we should always remember that we are just participants in a group of of workers. We're all working together to get to the same goal. So I think we should have a moderate attitude. We should be tolerant towards one another as colleagues, as co-researchers, tolerant towards the researchers. There should be this willingness to work together, to get along, to respect one another, be balanced in one's attitude. I mean, as a patient, as a cancer survivor, it's easy for maybe for me sometimes to think negatively about some of the things I had to go through, but that shouldn't taint the way that I can provide my information or provide help. I should try and, as a co-researcher, I think we should try and be balanced and not be too optimistic or too negative. I mean, try and see things in an objective way, not too much in a subjective way, which is it's not always easy, as I said, because we've experienced it directly, and sometimes that can, as I said earlier, can kind of give you some kind of, not always, the attitudes can sometimes be, a little bit unbalanced. But I think the aim is to try and always remember that we are here to help out the researchers and to help out patients in the long run. And of course, that means empathy, right? We need to remember that we are all together working for the same goal, and we should listen to each other and understand each other and try and be empathetic. And I think as human beings, that should be the rule for everyone and anyone, and in all situations. Thank you. I don't know. I'll leave. I think I'll leave the floor to Nana now if she wants to say anything, and then if there are any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Laura, for your contribution, and also Merel, thank you for your presentation. Yeah, we are open to any questions. So if there are any, please go ahead. I tried to answer one of the questions in the chat. It was about the work package content. I think it's the question behind the question was what activities or tasks were in the work packages. So it might have answered your question. If not, then please go ahead and then we can provide you with the content of the work package.
Okay, thank you all. I really want to